Well, Bishop Kemme, thank you so much for joining us today.
Very great pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Happy to share this time with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Well, we usually just kind of get started with our guests and ask them a little bit about their upbringing, maybe their childhood and really like journey of faith. So if you wanted to start us off, however much or however little you'd like to share.
No, I love to, I don't like to talk about myself, but I can, So I grew up on a farm in central Illinois, and I've obviously my mom and dad and 4 brothers and a sister. We very modest farm, corn and beans, raised some cattle, some hogs, and farming was not something I really was drawn to. As a child, I realized early on I wasn't meant to be a farmer, but didn't go to a Catholic school. We went to public schools. That was what was available to us, and we were very involved in our little parish church, and had a lot of Catholic friends, and it was kind of an ideal kind of life, good, simple life. But the Lord put in on my heart pretty early on this desire to be a priest. And I think it was a big surprise to my parents when I would start talking about, I think I want to be a priest, And I don't know if they ever really fully believed me until I was starting to talk about going to the seminary.
Wow.
And but they were very supportive. We were at Mass every Sunday. We didn't do daily Mass and daily Rosary like a lot of Catholic families did, but we were serious Catholics, and it was a joyful childhood.
Wow.
Pretty uneventful. We didn't travel very much. We with a farm, you're pretty much kept at home and working and so forth. But we had a lot of big extended family, lots of cousins, grandparents, great relationship with all my grandparents, and just remember a childhood that was just lots of activities and a lot of fun. Little League Baseball, 4-H, awesome. And going to county fairs and stuff. And I don't want to paint a picture that doesn't seem real, but that's how I grew up.
Wow.
And as I look back upon it now, we took all that for granted, but I realized how really blessed I was.
Wow.
And but yeah, as I got a little older, I kept this desire to be a priest kept with me, stayed with me. It actually grew stronger as I got older and close to high school, and so much so that I started investigating and thinking about maybe going to the seminary pretty early. So I wrote for some information at what they used to call minor seminaries, high school seminaries.
Okay, yeah.
And I started receiving information, and then and I started talking to my parents about it, and landed on a seminary that was in Belleville, Illinois, about 100 miles from where our family was living. And I applied, and my parents' permission, and
wow,
and was accepted, and went, and then 11 years later, I was ordained a priest.
Wow.
So it was a great journey, not easy. It was a very formative, as seminary is. The formation of the mind and the heart and the spiritual life and everything. So May 10th, 1986, my dream came true of being a priest, and I was ordained, and that was 40 years ago.
Wow.
40 years ago. It'll be 40 years on May 10th. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy anniversary.
It seems like
awesome.
4 days sometimes, or 4 years.
I would think that's a good sign, right?
I think so, yeah.
Not 400 years.
Yeah, not 400, no.
That's amazing, Bishop.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's been an adventure. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm now, entering my 5th decade as a priest, and I feel, healthy, and I feel, very excited about my vocation and the ministry I now have as a bishop, which is significantly different than I ever thought it would be.
Sure.
I had planned, and I'll be 12 years a bishop on May 1st.
Wow.
So lots to be grateful for, especially bringing me here to Wichita, which was never in my wildest dreams or imagination that was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And but God is so good, and He has us all planned for you. And then when it's revealed, you think, why is this happening? Why is that happening? And then when you look back upon it, which I can now do with some experience and a little bit of history, I see how much God was at work in all of this. And it's exciting to see that.
Yeah.
And so I anticipate, in the years ahead, before the Lord brings me home, a lot more to come. So,
oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What was that like? I don't even know how this works. I'm like, you get a phone call one day, or maybe there's obviously maybe some whispers or some things leading up to this, but maybe like, what was it like? What was it, a phone call or a letter, or that day? Let's just, I'm assuming it's a phone call. Yeah. We get this call and it's like, hey, you're going to be a bishop. Yeah. Would you mind sharing like,
I'd love to.
What did that feel like?
I've been asked that question many times, and I love telling this story. It's a funny story, actually. So before I became a bishop, I was serving as a pastor, but I was also in leadership in my home diocese.
Okay.
So I had the position of vicar general.
Okay.
So it's an important position in the diocese, and I did it for 12 years.
Wow.
And I didn't know if I was any good at it, but anyway, I did it. And people from time to time would say, "Oh, you're probably going to be the next bishop. You're probably going to be the next bishop." And I'd always deflect that, and I never ever thought that was in my future. And I never desired it. I knew what the life of a bishop was like because I worked closely with my bishop back in Illinois. And I thought, no, I don't want that, And so I'd done that work for 12 years, and the last 2 years I was full time, and I didn't have a parish, but prior to that I had a parish as well. So anyway, I was this close, very close to going into the bishop's office and saying, I think it's time that I step out of this role. And I've done it now 12 years, and I think it's time for a new person. I would call it my elevator speech already, and just rehearsing it in my mind and everything. And I thought, well, just choose the right time, And so I'm going down to St. Louis with a brother priest, and we're going to a conference, Good Leaders, Good Shepherds. And it was going to be like a 2 or 3 day conference. And we get close to the conference, and I'm in the passenger seat, and my secretary calls me from the chancery, and she says, "You just got an unusual phone call from an archbishop in Washington, D.C." I said, "Really? Wow. What's going on there?" And she says, "Well, he asked for your cell phone number. I hope it was okay if I gave it to him." I said, "Well, I guess so, no problem." So just as we were getting out of the car to go into the venue where we were going to have this conference, my phone rang, and I was unable to really take the call. But by the time I got checked in, got to my room, there was a voice message waiting for me, and it was the nuncio of the United States. So Archbishop, at that time, it was Archbishop Vigano.
Oh, wow.
And he left a message, and he said, "This is Archbishop Vigano. I need to speak with you as soon as possible, and call me back as soon as possible."
Wow.
I thought, what, am I in trouble, or, what's going on here, And so anyway, I got situated in my room, and I thought, well, I'll just call. And I rang the number, and he picked up right away, and he says, "Monsignor Kemme?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you alone?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I have a message to deliver to you, and then I'm going to end the call because I'm in the middle of something." But he said, "I'll call you back in 30 minutes. And then he said, "The message is that Pope Francis has just appointed you to be the next bishop of Wichita, Kansas." And then he says, "Now I'll call you back in 30 minutes. I was like,
"Oh
what?
My gosh!
I'm just sitting at the edge on the corner of the bed, and it's like, my life has just completely changed.
Wow. And then you had 30 minutes by yourself.
30 minutes.
Your mind or your heart was maybe,
So I remember going into the bathroom where I was, and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I said, your life is different.
Wow.
So I had my laptop, and I was able to pull up the Diocese of Wichita as fast as my fingers were just shaking, Diocese of Wichita, Googled, and then the website comes up, and it's amazing what you can find out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I could see all the priests. I could see, I see all this, and pictures, some photos, and so that 30 minutes went like that. But I really thought that he would probably be hours, he would call me right back. But sure enough, he called me in 30 minutes, and he said, okay, he said, so what is your answer? And I said, you need an answer right now? And he goes, well, that would be our preference, And I said, Archbishop, this is completely a big surprise to me. I never dreamt of anything like this. I don't know how good I'll do at it, but I've tried to never say no to God. And if this is the Holy Father's choice, and if you all think that this is the best choice, then I will accept. And he goes, okay, good. That's the answer we were looking for. And then the kicker was, he
Bishop,
says,
that's crazy.
Yeah, now the kicker is, he said, now you can speak to no one about this. You're completely sworn to silence. You can tell no one.
For how long was that?
Well, so he said, the next call you'll get will be from Archbishop Naumann, the Metropolitan. He said, you can talk to him about it. But he said, you can't speak to anybody else about it. So he said, we have to make sure that I have to deliver the message to the Metropolitan, which is Archbishop. So he knows that the appointment's been made and that it's been accepted. And then he said, I have to notify Rome that you accepted the position. But she said, you can't say anything. He goes, can you keep that solemn promise? And I said, yeah. So it's like confession,
Oh my.
So that was hard.
Yeah,
that was hard. It was like I had this weight that I couldn't ask anybody to help me carry.
Oh man.
And so I had to go through those 2.5 days in that conference. I didn't, those speakers, whatever they said, I didn't
even remember what it was about. Yeah.
I didn't hear a word they were saying.
And, your friends were like, what's wrong with you?
And every one of our breaks, I'd run up to the room and pull out the computer again and start Googling Diocese of Wichita and get it, it was kind of wild.
Wow.
And then when I got back to Springfield, by that time, my bishop, he was notified. And so I could speak to him about it, but I still couldn't talk to my family. Wow. And I forget the day, but the day of the week, but I was scheduled to go and visit my parents like on a Sunday. I was going to stay overnight on Monday for my day off. So I went down there on Sunday, and a lot of my brothers and my sister were all at the house, and it was just a lot of people. And here I am with this news, and I can't say a word.
Oh my gosh.
And so we had food, and we were, talking and playing cards, everything. And finally I just thought, I got to go back to Springfield. I can't stay the night because I'm going to blurt it out if I stay any longer. So I said, Mom, I have to go back to Springfield. Well,
Yeah.
You were going to stay. We were hoping you'd stay. And I said, something's come up. I just got to get back to Springfield.
I can't tell you what.
Yeah. So anyway,
wow.
Then eventually, then as that time rolled on, I was able to tell my parents and my family, and they were thrilled. So
that's amazing.
Thrilled
that's amazing
about the appointment. They weren't so thrilled that I was moving this far away from home.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible story. How, like in that process, and obviously, you as a bishop are working closely with young men who are perhaps considering a call into the priestly vocation. And a lot of times we're talking with people who are maybe considering being a missionary or something. But I imagine this could kind of be applied to so many different parts of life where there's an invitation or an opportunity to something that we wouldn't have imagined, as you said, or maybe at times think, I don't know if I can even do this. And maybe there's some fear, or certainly there's a lack of certainty. How did you work through that or pray through that during that time? Like, was there any thought or like a scripture or a something, maybe a spiritual director told you that maybe like you hung on to or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. Throughout my whole vocation, I've never been the most self-confident, to be honest. And I'm actually happy about that.
Yeah.
I think it's better if you approach things with more humility and I've always felt like anything that was asked of me, I felt a little unqualified for. Sometimes more so than others, but big things, like pastoring a parish or pastoring a parish with a school, and I always thought, I don't think I can do that. Well, the reality is that you can, and you have more to you than meets the eye. And it's not us, it's really the Lord working through us. And so every stage of my priesthood, there's always been this rising to a higher level of responsibility. And I was just reflecting with some people, recently, and I remember when I was a brand new seminarian thinking, I'm going to go to the seminary, but I doubt if I'll ever get ordained because I don't think I can give a homily. I don't think I could give a sermon, I can't get up in front of people and speak, Well, that's all I do now. And so it's like, yeah, you can, and you will.
Yeah.
So, but give God that room, and let God, mold you and form you. And all of us are called to do great things, big things, even though we feel quite inadequate and quite unqualified for it. That old thing, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And that's really true. That's rung true in my life for sure. All throughout the scriptures, and especially in the Gospels, Jesus kept saying, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. He called the apostles and the disciples to, step out of the boat. That passage is like, we got to get out of the boat and walk with Jesus on the water. And even though it's scary and it's uncertain and it doesn't feel safe, Jesus, Peter did that, but then he began to sink, and we all feel that way sometimes. We're sinking, but then the hand of Jesus is right there, and he holds us.
Yes.
And that's been marvelously consoling to me over the years. And if I reflect more on my fears and inadequacies, I'm not remembering enough that Jesus is right there with me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, we were blessed to. This past weekend, my wife Meg and I left the kids here with former seminarian of yours, who I will name Chauncey Toon.
Okay.
I can remember Chauncey, but
okay.
Luckily, big shout out to Chauncey. We love you. And Ruth really kept the kids alive. But Chauncey made them laugh. We went up to Nebraska and went to a Healing the Whole Person retreat with Dr. Bob Schutz. Anyways, he or maybe it was Sister Miriam, I can't quite remember, said something to the effect of how often do we live as if we're orphans, or we had that temptation is there to think and to fear and to have this anxiety that like we don't have a good father who is there, and I just that really struck me of like, oh gosh, I do that a lot. Like I constantly need to be that reminder. I just thank you for sharing that, because that convicted me of like that image of Christ's hand reaching out. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What have been like some of your favorite moments being a bishop? We just briefly talked about one really cool one that you got to just recently do, it maybe that or anything. Are there things that stick out to you in your it has been an incredible blessing to be a bishop. And of course, being the Bishop of Wichita is over the top. We're a bit of an anomaly, with our vocations in this dynamic diocese. And there's, it's not heaven here, but we're on our way, I think. And I have grown so much as a man, as a priest, as a bishop, as a disciple here than I would have ever done had I remained back in Illinois. Wow.
So I give thanks for that every day. I know the Lord has been hard at work in my life, and he continues to mold me and form me. into this apostle that he needs for this local church.
Yeah.
And so I'm incredibly grateful for that. There's been so many powerful moments, understandably meeting Pope Francis. I've met him 3 times.
Wow.
As a bishop. He appointed me to be the bishop here.
Wow.
That was very moving. Meeting Pope Leo last October,
Oh, cool.
Our first Pope from the United States.
And a fellow Illinois.
And a fellow Illinoisan.
Wow, that's amazing.
I told him, that's the first thing I told him. After I told him I was Bishop of Wichita, and I'm grateful for that. And I said, but here's what I really want to tell you. I'm from Illinois too. He goes, oh, you are? Where are you from? And I said, downstate. And he goes, oh, okay. Yeah. So I told him where. And
that's
awesome. He knew of those places, So it was cool to be able to go up to the Holy Father and to know that you're going to immediately speak in English.
Oh, man.
And everything is just
natural. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
30 seconds, but it was 30 seconds of great.
Yeah.
It was really a grace.
Wow.
So those moments as a bishop have been very powerful for me. I was able to meet, before becoming a bishop, I was able to meet Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II. Met him twice and had Mass in his private chapel. Which, as a priest, it's hard for me to describe what that does to you and how that just enriches your vocation. And I'll never forget those 2 Masses in his private chapel.
Wow.
About 15 or so other priests with me. But to have that closeness to the Pope, especially somebody as evidently holy and intensely spiritual as John Paul II was.
That's funny you mentioned that, Bishop, because I was just thinking, through, as I was kind of frantically cleaning up last minute, I was like, you can ask the missionaries the whole past month. I'm like, guys, Bishop is coming. I was like, clean up. And they're like, what is wrong with Andy? We've never seen him clean, But I was thinking about like questions to ask you, and for some reason I actually thought of John Paul II. So maybe I'll go ahead and ask it. But he's actually one of we have a few of our kind of patron saints or friends on the wall here. But one of ours is John Paul II, and I was actually going to ask you about him. What was that like? I mean, you were ordained a priest during his pontificate, and
my whole entire seminary almost.
Oh, yeah.
So he was elected in '78. That was my first year in the college seminary.
Wow.
So I had 3 years before that with Pope Paul VI, now St. Paul VI.
Wow.
But so I was coming of age with John Paul II.
Wow.
And it was nothing but exciting and exhilarating to see him hit the world stage with his incredible vibrancy and youthfulness and his direction for the church. So all through my, 8 years of seminary, 4 years in the college, 4 years in the major, he was the Pope, and he was the Pope when I was ordained.
Wow.
And then 3 years later, I was able to go to Rome for the first time as a young priest, and to get that opportunity to meet him and shake his hand and pray with him. That will always be a watershed moment for me in my vocation. I remember coming out of the Apostolic Palace, we're going down the steps, and I just remember I was with a priest friend of mine who's now the Bishop of Orange, California, Bishop Kevin Van. We were together in Rome for that visit, and I said, I don't know what can beat that. I don't know what can beat that. So,
wow.
But and then just the powerful impact he had on the church and will have for generations. I can't say enough about St. John Paul II.
Yeah.
Of course, Benedict was equally very impressive and influential. I wasn't able to meet him, I'm sad to say, and then Pope Francis brought his own unique way of leading the church, his great desire for the church of the poor, to be for the poor and of the poor.
Yeah.
His commitment to the people on the margins, which of course you're all doing, and Vagabond, and what we're trying to do in the diocese, and in many unique ways of helping people feel the presence of Jesus in their lives.
Yeah.
people that are, at risk of being lost and abandoned or, kind of tossed away by our society and so forth. So yeah, all good.
Well, I feel like we would be missing something to be able to sit down with the Bishop of Wichita. And I think, as you said, if people have heard of Wichita, Kansas, it's like, usually when you talk to a lot of Catholics, they're like, "Oh yeah, don't you guys have this like stewardship thing going on?" And or you have all these priests, and I feel like those three things, two seem to be maybe more common. We have a dear friend who's a missionary still, our area director with Vagabond, Mark Pirro, and he worked alongside of Cree Pena, and her husband are with Family Missions Company, but. He, I guess he met Bishop Jacobs at one point, and he said, "Oh, Mark, yeah, Kreese told me about you. You're the guy who says, when I die, I don't want to go to heaven. I want to go to Wichita." because Cree would talk about how great Wichita
must be better than heaven.
Which obviously not.
Yeah,
but the things that come up for a lot of people are aware of are the stewardship model, way of life, the high number of priestly vocations. And then one thing I always like to point out, I think maybe people don't know as much about, is just the availability and presence of perpetual adoration in, I would say, most of our churches, right. I would think, and how those all work together. Maybe just honing in on one of those. I'm thinking of the vocations of the priesthood, and maybe even around. I guess I'd love for you to share a little bit about. I don't know how many years ago it would be now. 5, 6, 7 years ago. I almost said 6, 7 years ago. The House of Formation got started here in Wichita. So maybe just I'd love to ask you about that, or you could tell the listeners a little bit about what we have going on here.
Yeah, it's really an incredible grace. We're so blessed in this diocese with men discerning the priesthood, and I've been here. I will be 12 years, and I've ordained 47 priests in 12 years, just for our diocese.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just out of the box, crazy, good. Now, we had 2 large classes, 10 each, a year apart. That really helps the numbers, but overall, a very, very good ratio for the diocese our size. Some years ago, my predecessor, Bishop Jacobs, they did a study, internal study of the possibility of opening a seminary.
Wow. Okay.
And there was in the desks when I came, there was like 3 or 4 large files, and it was all this demographic study and I looked through it when I had time. I was, I didn't have a
little bedtime reading.
Eventually, I said, and so the staff at the chancery they said, well, we've looked at that as a possibility, but Bishop Jacobs decided at the time that we didn't have the priests. We didn't have enough priests to staff it well. So they put it on the shelf. So then I come, and then after 2 or 3 years, we're having all these ordinations. And so it kind of was brought back to the front burner. So it went through a process again of just looking at all that material, brought it before the Presbyteral Council and the priests, and should we consider, because of the larger numbers of men that are coming to apply for seminary, should we consider having our own house of a college program?
Yeah.
And so we took what I would say is a calculated risk, because it could have fallen apart, and it could have failed on us. That we would start, initially it was to be a 2-year program, and then from there they would go on to another college program like Conception or somewhere else. And that was originally the plan, and we would use Newman. They would get an associate's degree, but we'd have the first 2 years of their college formation right here in the heart of the diocese. And so we had 7 men in our first year, and then I think there was 11 or 12 in the second, and then the number started just increasing, and then we realized we could do 4 years. we
Wow.
could actually do a 4-year program.
Wow.
So that's when we quickly shifted to adding the 3rd and the 4th year.
Wow.
And with Newman University's help and bringing in the right philosophy professors
Yeah.
and the right curriculum and everything, lots of people were working on it.
Wow.
And so now we're going to be finishing our 9th year.
Oh my gosh. It's been
And,
like
yeah,
wow.
and we'll start in August. We'll start our 10th year.
Amazing.
Last year, we had our largest number of applicants. We had 19 new men that came to the house. And so we do
19 new men were accepted?
accepted.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
So we had 42
Wow.
in the house.
That's
and there's
incredible.
three buildings. And, we had a new chapel built. And so now I think we have 12 applicants for
Wow.
next year. So really solid numbers. And, the men are coming from all kinds of places. They're coming from our Catholic high schools. They're coming from K-State, Benedictine. They're
Wow.
coming Wichita State. They're also coming from homeschool formations.
Yeah.
So we're just getting a really good, solid variety of young men that are coming, and it's absolute joy to see these guys. And I try to go there as often as I can.
Oh yeah.
For prayer and for dinner and just hanging out with the guys, and it's a real joy to see, because the joy in the house is really palpable.
Yeah.
And we really work on that this is a serious place, but it's also a happy place. I mean, we want this to be a joyful experience for these men, so that they would take that with them to the major seminary if they go on. And the process works beautifully, because we have any number of guys that come maybe a year or two, and then they discern out. And I always tell them there's no obligation. There's no, we don't look down upon you if you discern out. We love you. We want you to go, and most of them go on to do great things, get married, have kids, and they're really good, solid members of the diocese. And it's all being served because of that formation. So I'm so excited about the House of Formation. I think when I look back, hopefully 10 years from now when I retire, I have 10 more years almost.
not that
I'm counting, but that's,
9 years.
So I'm 65. So by the way, just so you know, I'm 65. I'll have to retire at 75. But I think when I look back, there's a lot of things I'll look back at with such gratitude and pride. But the House of Formation will be at the top.
Oh, that's amazing.
So far,
Bishop.
Camp Capon might be right up there with it.
There we go. Yeah, there you go.
Our new family and youth camp. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I've been blessed to go. Maybe it was actually only once for a visit to the House of Formation.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was during their summer immersion in Spanish. Which I don't speak Spanish that well, but we were sharing about Vagabond and working on the North End and St. Pat's, parish. And I think I went another time just to a meeting with maybe Father Garrett. I can't quite remember, but gosh, both times going, it was like you said, that joy and that there's something about that kind of band of brothers and the brotherhood and fellowship of what life in Christ together can look like. And it's like, we see it too within Vagabond of like, it's like I remember telling a few people this, like when we started Vagabond here, which I'd love to ask you about that too. Because you were a huge part in that. But when we started, it was, myself and another young lady named Jenny, and obviously my wife, being involved as well. But we didn't really imagine, we just thought like, we're going to do this mission. And then all of a sudden, this little community started to form around it. And we realized, there was like almost like an order to like, okay, our life of prayer and our own relationship with the Lord. And then this like community together of supporting and loving. And then that flowed into mission.
Right.
And it's like, so many people are probably just so hungry for that. It's just, I think of maybe just young people growing up today who don't have a faith tradition or a faith community, and then they're on their phones all day, or they're just wondering about how does this happen? So, yeah, I think that's a great example of like,
well, when it's funny when we have guys that discern out, it's ironic that they know they need to move and leave, but they don't want to because the house is a real place of true charity. It's a real community where they care for each other. And when I'm there, anytime you spend there, you just get a real strong sense of that these men really love each other. They really do take care of each other. And it's not phony. There's something authentic about that. And when you offer that and it happens, that's just, that's like gold.
Yeah.
It's like gold. And it's the most perfect place to be formed for ministry, whether that mission is to move beyond and go and form your own family, or whether you go on to the major seminary and eventually get ordained. It's the most positive place you could be for that to happen. And we challenge the men, they have to be challenged. I mean, there's still like rough edges and so forth, but it's done out of love and not out of like a sense of, get in line or else, it's really a sense of you need to grow in virtue as a man, and because the church will use that, that virtue. So I'm so excited about the future of the House of Formation. We've already ordained our first priest that started there, and it's pretty cool.
That's incredible. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. Thank you for taking, as you said, calculated, but thank you for taking that risk, because it's going to be a blessing for, a hundredfold, I think, for our diocese.
Many years to come.
Very cool. So yeah, maybe switching gears a little bit, Bishop, if that's okay. Our friendship has gone back a number of years now. I guess it's funny you started 12 years ago here. I think we've been here for 13, maybe. My wife growing up here in the diocese, and then I'm originally from Virginia, and then we moved out here when our oldest Rosie was born. We moved out here to Wichita, and she's 13 now, and at Blessed Sacrament. And as you said, time really flies. But I have to just thank you for your welcome and support of Vagabond from the beginning. This was 11 years ago. It was, if I'm recalling correctly, it was Advent of 2015. Myself, Father Eric Weldon, Father Jim Weldon, and Father Jerome Spexarth sat. You had a meeting with us, and I think it was Father Dan Dooling at the time, maybe. All these great holy priests, and we were at the time, like now, I feel like we've maybe grown up a little bit. We're like, we're Vagabond missions, and we are established, and we're still a little crazy, but back then we were dirty Vagabond ministries, and we were maybe in two other places. And there's just this guy who taught at a Catholic school that was wanting to sit down with you, like, hey, I want to start this thing. Thank you for, again, another risk, maybe less calculated, but another risk of welcoming us. But maybe, like, I don't know if you can remember some of that. Not that you spent a ton of time thinking about it per se, but just like, what your initial thoughts were, or like idea to say, yes, this could be a fit in our diocese.
Well, by that time, I do remember the meeting and the conversation. I had first met you, I think, at St. Thomas when you were teaching, and I walked into your classroom. I was doing school visits. I was brand new, and here's this guy up there, and he's got Athanasius on the board, and Ambrose, and doctors of the church, and everything. It's like, who is this guy?
Not as many tattoos back then.
I just was like amazed that you were, in an 8th grade or whatever class, 7th or 8th grade theology class, you were talking about all this stuff. That was stuff I didn't know until major seminary. But anyway, I was just like, wow, this is, and then, time passes, and then you request the meeting, and we're talking about the mission of Vagabond. And I remember just learning about it, and of course, by that time, I had visited a number of our parishes in this area, Holy Savior, St. Pat's, and recognized there are parts of our city where young people are really falling through the cracks, and And it didn't take me very long at all to realize that there's a place for that here. And already I had been, very much aware of the living of the corporal and spiritual works of mercy by so many things in our diocese, the Lord's Diner and St. Anthony Family Shelter and Harbor House and, Guadalupe Clinic. And I mean, just trying to extend the arms of Jesus beyond the ordinary parish, and the safe places,
Right. Yeah.
And that's impressive. I don't think that gets enough recognition in this diocese.
Yeah.
You said it earlier, we're known for stewardship. We're known for our Catholic
very
schools, vocations, profession.
Very true.
The outreach to the marginalized in this diocese is extensive. I mean, there's always more to do.
Yeah.
More possibilities, more opportunities than we have resources. But I was convinced after that meeting and then just learning more about it and really then sensing the people that you were bringing on board with you, that these are solid. These are our solid people. These are not fly-by-night people. These are people that are going to be really instrumental in this mission.
Like Sophie Coulter.
Like Sophie Coulter, and
Father Isaac was he was one of those original.
Oh yeah.
I thought you were shaking your head like you didn't want to talk about that.
No, I love talking about.
I was going to say, Isaac. Tell us your thoughts about Father Isaac. No, I'm kidding. We miss him dearly.
He is the most unique priest we have. I tell you. He can sleep for hours in a hammock in the middle of the winter, and not think anything of it.
It's amazing. Yeah.
In Latin we call sui generis. He's his own kind. That's what it means. Sui generis. He's his own kind. There's nobody like him, and that's okay.
Well, we always make fun of him because he's gone through this, which maybe you probably have like a direct line, like the mayor did to Batman, maybe. But he's gotten rid of his. Now we're just going to go on a rant about Father Isaac, but he got rid of his cell phone and his email, and now you have to call his secretary. Yeah. First he got rid of texting, and he still. And I always say, I'm like, and so he has no way to listen to this because he doesn't have an iPhone or whatever.
He and I are going to have a conversation about all that because there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way the bishop at least needs to get a hold of him direct. I don't need to want to go.
I always tell him, I know that this is this is making you holier, but for the rest of us, I was like, we miss you.
Everybody else is getting mad.
All right, so if you're listening to this on a cassette tape or something, Father Isaac, Bishop needs to get a hold of you. Okay. Well, thank you again. I mean, just thank you for your support throughout the years. You're always just willing to either write letters or reach out to people or support us, and we're just so grateful for that, Bishop. Thank you.
I always if Pope Francis would when he was living would have said, okay, I'm going to make a visit to Wichita for a pastoral visit, what would I show him? And I always thought I would take him to the Lord's Diner. I would take him to Guadalupe Clinic. I'd take him to all these places. I'd want him to see the cathedral, but that would be it. It's natural. But I'd want him to come here, Vagabond. I want him to see, because that was these were things near and dear to his heart. And we were living that, and we still do, his call for the church to really go to the peripheries. And that's just part and parcel of your mission and part and parcel of the diocese. And I love that. I really love that.
Thank you, Bishop.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the heroic service that you're offering. So
thank you. So in a lot of times, just wrapping up our conversations with our guests, we'll kind of ask maybe for a parting word. And in your case, I would maybe think of, someone, a young person discerning, going into the priesthood, or maybe discerning the religious life. And obviously you've done that yourself. what would you, your 30-second elevator pitch for them, or it can be longer, but yeah, just some of your words of wisdom for them.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling everybody in my confirmation homily this year, don't be afraid of the vocation God has given you. Don't be afraid. God has given you this gift of the Holy Spirit. God has you've been baptized, you've been confirmed, you've been receiving the Holy Eucharist. You're fully initiated as a disciple of the Lord and in the Holy Roman Catholic Church. God has a big plan for you. And it may take a few years for that to start to take shape or to become more clear, but don't hesitate. Don't be afraid of that. Say yes to whatever God wants, whatever it is. In every given moment of every given day of every stage of life, the more we say yes to God, the more He will bless us. And if that's to be a priest or a religious or a husband or wife, whatever it is, that's God's plan. That's God's call. And don't hesitate. Just throw yourself into it, and the rest will take care of itself. And you'll never regret it. You'll never regret it if you're doing God's will. And let people around you help to discern that. Help you to realize that if it's God's will or if it's more your own will. Let people, your pastor, your parish priest, your friends, your parents, whoever is in your life, let them help you discern that and come to understand that, and then go forward. Just go forward.
Wow.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. Amen. Thank you, Bishop, so much for your time.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for the invitation. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.